Joining us now is Artur Davis, a former four-term member of Congress who represented the 7th District of Alabama from 2003 to 2010. Representative Davis made an unsuccessful bid for that state's governor in 2010. The former Democratic congressman made headlines earlier this year when he announced his decision to become a Republican in Virginia. And Mr. Davis, we're so happy that you're joining us.
Thank you. Good to talk to you and to your audience.
Well, you've taken a lot of heat from Democrats while at the same time receiving a very warm embrace from Republicans for your decision to switch parties. Why did you decide to abandon the Democratic Party?
Well, it was not a decision that was made overnight. It was not a decision that was made lightly. And it's one that honestly took about 2 years. I've been out of public office for 2 years now, been on the sidelines. And the good thing about being on the sidelines, you get a chance to be a spectator and actually listen to what both sides are saying. To listen to what both sides are saying and to decide what makes sense and what seems to be speaking to the challenges facing the country now. I just simply took inventory. On most of the issues that face the country now, I lean closer to and feel more comfortable with the Republican side or the Republican way of looking at the world and the Democratic way of looking at the world. It's no one issue, it's no two issues, it's a combination of things, but this feels more comfortable and feels like the right place for me.
Now, Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell praised your decision, saying to the Washington Post that it took a lot of courage for you to analyze the problems with the administration, and he went on to call you a man of principle. You say that this was not an easy decision for you to make. Are you surprised at the racial tone of the attacks against you that have ensued?
No, I'm not. I'm a big fan of Bob McDonnell, and as I told him last week when I talked to him after the interview, I'm very grateful and pleased by his comments and very thankful for them. As far as the reaction of the African-American community, it's what I would have expected. The African-American community feels an enormous loyalty to President Obama. There's no question about that. I have no illusion that 97% of African Americans are going to vote for Barack Obama this year. But this is, win or lose, the last time Barack Obama is going to be on a ballot. If he wins, he still can't run for a third term, and if he loses, like other ex-presidents, he'll move away from politics. After President Obama leaves the scene as a candidate, I think you are going to see African Americans take stock of the political process, and I think they're going to notice something that I've noticed. The Republican Party has done a much better job, a much more inclusive job of electing minorities to high office and electing them to positions in non-black environments. There's no Democratic version of Bobby Jindal, the Indian governor of Louisiana. There's no Democratic version of Nikki Haley, the Indian governor of South Carolina. And there is no Democratic version of Tim Scott and Allen West, two black Republicans who happen to represent predominantly white districts that have a relatively small minority voting base. You don't see people like that emerging in the Democratic Party. What you candidly see is people who are representing African American districts and who are primarily spokespersons for that one community. I think a lot of younger African Americans are going to take notice of that trend, and they're going to see the Republican Party as a more inclusive party in many ways.
Now, earlier you said that you expected about 97% of black voters to come out in support of President Obama in the next presidential election. However, a recent Gallup poll shows that President Obama's approval rating amongst African Americans is down to about 84%, which is still relatively high, but significantly down from the 90+% approval that he had in his first year or so in office. Does this suggest that black voters are beginning to turn on Barack Obama?
Oh, I haven't seen that poll. I haven't had a chance to look at it. I expect the president to get very high numbers with African Americans. I don't expect that to change. I do think many African Americans are troubled by the economy. You look at the job numbers that came out last Friday. When you see an economy that's stuck, when you see an economy that's not creating even the jobs we need to keep pace with growth in the economy, who are the people who are really hurt by that kind of stagnation? Well, it's people who are already close to the bottom of the economic tide, and that's a lot of Latinos, it's a lot of African Americans. So You know, again, I won't try to play pundit or prognosticator today. I have no idea what the final number will be. I suspect it'll be very high. But I didn't make my statement last week as an African American, frankly. I made it as an American who has thoughts about the direction of the country. I don't purport to speak for the African American community. I don't purport to be an example of a trend in the African American community. I'm speaking as an American who thinks that the Republican Party has more answers, the Democratic Party has more of a defense of the past.
Now, you touched on the weak economy. President Obama's term has been marked by massive deficits, high unemployment, and politics that many say are just too radical. Do you think that the president is undoing the Democratic Party?
Well, I think the president had a huge opportunity 4 years ago. He had a huge opportunity to move the Democratic Party toward the center, which is how it won back in the 1990s. He had a huge opportunity to try to figure out some creative solutions that cross party lines on a range of topics, from health care to climate change to the economy. And instead, the decision was made to more or less adopt a Democratic playbook and a liberal agenda that had been building up for 10 or 15 or 20 years. And I understand the politics of that. The president was trying to solidify his base in many ways. But the reality is, so many people in this country 4 years ago voted to turn the page, in the president's word. They voted to get past the ideological logjam that we've gotten so accustomed to in this country. And instead, what they've seen is an administration that's been more ideological, more determined to enact big change with small partisan majorities than we've seen in a very, very long time. I think that's the big unfulfilled promise of the Obama administration, an administration that talks so passionately about bringing the country together. Now, what do we see instead? A more polarized, more fractured country than we had before. And some people say, well, isn't that a function of long-term historical trends? Isn't that a function of entrenched Republican opposition? There's always entrenched opposition from the other side. What effective leaders figure out how to do is to go to the other side and find a bridge or to find some common ground. This administration has not only failed in that endeavor, it's often not even tried. And I think that's one of many reasons why re-election would look fairly comfortable as recently as a few months ago. Now looks like at best a dead even thing.
Okay, a number of recent polls show Democrats' support for President Obama is fading. In fact, the president recently lost 40% or more of the vote in 3 primary elections. Do you think that Democrats will help elect Mitt Romney in 2012, much like Reagan Democrats helped elect Ronald Reagan in 80 and 84?
I think that 25 to 30% of the Democratic Party is moderate to conservative. The reality, though, is that maybe 2.5% of Democratic elected officials fit that category. There is a very big gap between the leadership of the Democratic Party and the rank and file of the Democratic Party. And I do think that's something that's beginning to hurt this president. It absolutely cost Democrats the Congress in 2010, and it could very well cost Barack Obama the White House. There are a lot of Democrats who are conservative, if you will, on a range of things, social issues, even economic issues. And it's not that they don't see the force of the argument on the other side, but they don't want their positions to be minimized. They don't want people to say, if you don't agree with me on abortion or same-sex marriage, that means that you're someone who hates women or who is bigoted or hates gays, or you're someone who wants to turn the clock back, or whatever the rhetoric is. People want to know that their opinions and their beliefs are respected.
Last question, Mr. Davis. On your blog, you write that you're weighing a run for Congress in Virginia as a Republican. Can you give us an update on your thinking at this point?
No, I can't, because my thinking hasn't changed. I've had people encourage me to look at running for office and getting involved in politics, and invariably the conversation leads from there to specific things like running for Congress in this area or running for the state legislature in this area. I'm nowhere near making that judgment. As voters in Virginia know, they have a primary coming up very soon, and they have candidates already running this year, and I'm obviously not one of them. I don't want to presume that the people running are going to lose. I don't know what will happen in the future. I do believe in public service. I do believe in people making a commitment to public service, but but that has to be matched with reality. For me to run for office again, obviously I'd have to believe there was a place where I could build the support. I'd have to believe that I'd made the connections that I needed to, and frankly have the resources necessary to run. I'm nowhere near making that determination, and it's not at all my focus today. My focus today is honestly on being a good, robust participant in the public debate that's going on in this country and contributing to it in the right way. Hopefully helping some good people get elected as well, and we'll see what happens after that.
All right, Artur Davis, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.